Hi, my name is Lydia Spotswood,
And I'm Shara Spotswood.
and we're going to share with you our heart for Africa and how God planted that in us and how that even began. I never ever pictured myself being a missionary growing up. Like, I never even thought Africa, I would ever even go there. I thought I'd just stay in America and minister here. But it was when I actually encountered the presence of God for the first time and just gave my life to Jesus completely. It was then that I realized that my life is not my own, that my life is made for a greater purpose than just having the American dream and just staying here. And people here need Jesus, and we love ministering here, but we really feel God calling us to Africa, especially after certain events that God really started planting that heart in us. For instance, we met this lady named Freddie at a conference, and we were actually staying at her house, and from the instant we met her, she looked at us and she realized that, wow, these girls are called to overseas missions. The Lord somehow shared that with her, that we were called to overseas missions. She looks at us and she said, "You're called to overseas missions," you know. I guess it was that similar heart that she could see it already. So she's like, "Go ahead and get your passports." I'm like, "What?" I'm thinking, no, I'm just called to America, whatever. And then a year later, she actually, or it was like 6 months later, she actually invited us to Kenya with her. And from the instant we went to Kenya, we just fell in love with Africa. We realized how many children are needy for the gospel there. Some children who have never even heard the gospel and who haven't even been given an opportunity to receive Jesus and give their lives to Jesus. And you know, it's not complicated. It's like children as young as 3 and 4 can receive this. And we really saw the evidence of that in Kenya. Just little children giving their lives to the Lord and just praying, as you'll see in the upcoming pictures in this video. Children just holding out their hands, just closing their eyes really tight and just encountering Jesus. It's just so beautiful. And another thing that really contributed to our heart for children was a thing called CEF, which is Child Evangelism Fellowship. And that really gave us boldness, because it kind of just puts you out there. And the program trains you to share the gospel clearly with children. So I'm so grateful for those things that God's put in my life to help me as tools to minister the gospel to children and people. You know, I use it in everything. So in that time in Kenya, God really opened our eyes and gave us a heart for Africa. And 500 something children gave their lives to Jesus, and it was just so beautiful.
In 2015, actually we were praying about where to go the next summer because we felt God calling it somewhere else. Prior to this time that we went to Kenya, we met this lady from Nigeria. She was just a beautiful Nigerian that stayed at our house in 2011, and we met her. She went back to Nigeria. That was the end of it, so we thought. And she came back again to have her first son, and we got close with her. And while we were preparing to go to Kenya, she really became close to us and like a sister. And so in 2015, we were praying where to go, and we said, "God, if you want us to go to Nigeria, then have them message us and ask us to come." Well, 2 minutes later, her husband messaged us and asked us to come. He said, "You guys should come to Nigeria this summer." And we're like, "Okay, we'll come. All right, God, take us." So we went to Nigeria, and there are no words to describe how incredible it was. We just fell in love with the people, the kids, the culture. We would go from village to village just preaching the gospel and proclaiming love to these kids, that there is a God that loves them, that He wants them, that He desires them, and He loves every part of them. What would happen is these kids would just be so open for God to come in their lives and to save them. It was so beautiful. It was the most beautiful sound to hear a group of about 60 children just desperately praying out to God for God to come into their lives, for Him to save them, and just worshiping for like the longest time. They didn't want to stop, and it just pierced my heart so deeply. Like, God, let me be desperate like this. Let me be desperate like these little children in Nigeria who have nothing, but they have you. And they realize their neediness for him, so they invite him in, and he changes their life. It wrecked me forever. I'm forever changed, and I even look up to these African children and these African people who are just so passionate about the Lord.
Yeah, and in that time in 2015 in Nigeria, we spent 6 weeks there actually, and like Shara was saying, we saw so many children come to know Jesus. Around 500, almost 600 children come to know Jesus for the first time. It was amazing. And in that time, God shared with me, I feel like, his heart for the orphan there. You know, it's just so clear, even in the Bible. It says that pure religion is taking care of the widow and the orphan. It's just like God, that's really his heart. And ever since I went to Nigeria for the first time, God really began to speak to me about starting a children's home in Nigeria for children who have been orphaned and abandoned. And after God spoke this to us, actually God spoke it to Shara too, the same heart. It was just really incredible. But he gave us the same heart for Africa and the same heart for children. And after we looked up on the internet how many children, orphaned and abandoned children in Nigeria, it was over 12 million, Nigeria alone. And it's just incredible. Nigeria is small compared to the rest of Africa. Who knows how much Africa has orphaned children in. But anyways, in that time, God really gave us that heart and that desire. And so now what we were praying this summer after we went to Africa, we went again for 4.5 months.
When we went for this 4.5 months, it was like we really got immersed into their way of living and their culture. And it was a much more difficult trip because we just experienced so much warfare from the enemy. And it's like God was saying, are you willing to pay the price for being a missionary and going to this different culture than you've ever known, because it's so different from America? And are you willing to pay the price of not always seeing your family in America, of just, you know, all these things? And it's like, wow, God, anything for you. It's not easy, but it's worth it just to see people experience him for the first time.
It's just so worth it.
It's just so worth it. And Jesus is worthy. He is worthy of everything we could ever offer him. Even if we offer him our whole lives, he's worthy of more than that.
Yeah.
So we were just like, yes, God, do whatever. So we're in preparation for starting this orphanage or children's home, because we don't want to call it an orphanage, because the Bible says you're no longer orphans. You're children of God. It says that we can call him Abba Father, that we're no longer have this spirit of fear, but we can crawl up in his lap and call him Abba Father.
Yeah. It's incredible. So as we are taking these next steps and preparing to start this children's home in Nigeria, we really felt like a really strong pull to Mozambique, Africa, where Heidi Baker and her husband Roland live. And you can look up more information on their website, irisglobal.org, irisglobal.org, and you can read more about that and stuff. But we really feel like God is calling us there for 2 months, which is what we're raising money for right now. Is this 2-month school called the Harvest School. Basically, it's just like a mission school and a Bible school. We'll do a lot of outreach. We'll go out to different villages and share the gospel and just love on little children. Like that just makes us come alive. And also, they have an orphanage there of 10,000 plus children. And we're gonna go there, we're gonna spend as much time at the orphanage as we can to kind of see how they do things, see how they run it. Just ask Heidi and Roland and see how they even went about starting this orphanage and what are the practical ways and the spiritual ways. And of course, we're going just to pursue our relationship with the Lord and deeper knowledge of him and his heart and his word and his spirit. So yeah, that's what we'll be doing, and we know that we are expecting the Lord to do amazing things, and We're actually leaving in October, this October. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 29, that is a lot of hairs. I don't think that I can count. Do you not have volunteers? I don't blame you because that's a lot of hair. How much hair do you think that is? How many hairs do you think? I don't know, like probably more than a million, probably more than a trillion, a zillion, numbers that we can't even count. So you know what? Guess who knows the number of our hairs? So the number of hairs on our head from like the small